the numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host and managing editor of Zoiks Online, Bob Zara. With me in Dead Bug Studios is
Coach Nez, and there's a lot of dead bugs over here.
a lot of them. It's that time of the year. It's cold.
I've caught 4 mice in my basement.
I've caught none. Although I'm pretty sure there's like a ground squirrel down here. There's like acorns popping up somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
But it's in the utility room.
I got a great trap if you want to borrow it.
We'll see. I don't really want to deal with it. We're at zoiksonline.com, zpnetwork.com, Facebook at the Nothing Shocking Podcast community fan page, and the Quad Cities Rock and Roll Junkies interest group. Our Twitter handle is NoShockPod. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Google Podcasts. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show, and tell your friends. It'll help us out. We're also on Rock Rage Radio, Sundays at noon Central Time. Our sponsors are
Ragged Records, Davenport, Iowa, and Rock Island, Illinois, new and used. And we have Legends Guitar Picks out of Milan, Illinois. And we have RockstarPicks.rocks out of Queens, New York.
And I want to thank the band Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music. Check them out on iTunes and HongKongSleepover.com and wherever else they are. Our guest this week is Myles Kennedy. I've been chasing this guy for... Man,
that one just kind of fell in your lap, didn't it? I was like, damn, I'm going to miss another good one.
Kinda. It was, hey, can you do this today at 2? And I was like, yeah, I suppose. Of course, I'm not going to. I've missed out on him a couple times, but ever since, I've been an Alter Bridge fan almost since day one. And then, obviously, the stuff he does with Slash, I would rather, as much as I love Guns N' Roses and loved that show, I would go watch Slash. His band with Myles, over almost any band, that's how good they are live. And then he's got the solo album called Year of the Tiger, which is completely different from Alter Bridge and Slash. Rarely do you have a singer who, when he does a solo thing, sounds different than his band. Mm-hmm. But he's in 3 different bands, and they all sound completely different, and it's pretty impressive.
The one thing that's very unique about Myles is everything that he's been involved with, I've heard nobody disliking anything that he does. He's just like this interchangeable part vocalist that can adapt to any type of genre. He blows my mind. He really does.
Yeah, it's insane. I think he's going to be this generation's probably best frontman singer. I don't really know who else he'd be competing against in terms of at least technical ability. Lizzie Hale maybe. I don't really know who else it'd be, but he's definitely going to be, one of the top guys from this generation. And it was just awesome to get the chance to talk with him. I almost forgot to hit record. I actually asked the question without hitting record, and then as soon as he talked, right before he said the first word, I looked down, and I noticed that the time wasn't going, so I hit record really quick, and then he started. So if there is a little bit of a glitch at the very beginning of the interview, like the first word or two he says, it's my fault for not hitting record right away. But I will re-ask the question. I'll put that into the podcast. But it was cool. It was obviously he's my favorite recent singer right now, and it was an honor to talk to him, and I'm glad he's on the podcast finally.
Very cool.
What else do you want to talk about?
You just celebrated a birthday, and your wife did something very cool for you.
Yeah,
brag about it a little bit.
She got me my favorite band of all time is Aerosmith, as most of you know, and not only that, but I'm a Joe Perry guy. He's kind of been my childhood hero since I was a little kid. And my wife got me meet and greet passes to go see it's not even the Joe Perry Project, it's Joe Perry and Friends. And his band is Gary Sharon's the singer, and Brad Whitford's the other guitar player. So
that is so awesome.
It's going to be pretty freaking awesome. And they're playing at the Rock House in West Dundee, where
Vista Blanco
yeah. plays there. So it's kind of cool to see a band like that in a venue like that.
It's a very quaint place, but very nice.
It's very expensive. Not quite, Aerosmith or Metallica meet and greets are like $2,500 a ticket.
Yeah.
This is only $500. Still a lot of money, but it was, I don't know, my wife just decided I guess if you're going to get a chance to do a meet and greet with Joe Perry, it's either going to be that or $2,500. So.
And then you're going to tell him about how cool of a podcast we are. And you're going to talk him into
I'll give him a pick.
And say, hey.
I mean, I've interviewed him before. I guess I could take that interview and throw it on the podcast and say, hey, Joe Perry's been on.
No, so you and Lindsay are going together, right?
No. Because it was only $500, she said, screw this. Got me one ticket, so I have to go alone. Which I get.
You do that often anyway.
Not to meet and greets.
But to shows.
For sure. But it's exciting, and it's December 1st in West Dundee, Illinois, near Chicago.
So cool. And then not only that, you can try to talk Gary Sharon, come on the podcast, Brad Whitford.
Hopefully, that'd be nice.
We can, you can schmooze them.
I definitely have a contact, so I'll see what I can do, but who knows? Maybe we'll be doing a bonus podcast here in the next week or two.
Yeah, and, you're not a guy that gets too excited about anything, or at all. When you opened this up, were you excited?
I kind of had an idea that it was coming, but then my wife was trying to get, because Aerosmith is doing that residency in Vegas,
right? So
she was trying to get tickets to that, and then finally she broke down and asked me where I'd want to sit, and so she kind of ruined the surprise. And then I kind of was like, it's a lot of money, I don't want to go to Vegas. It may be cool to see Aerosmith there, but they'll do a farewell tour if as long as none of them die in the next couple of years. So I can wait, and kind of bummed her out because it ruined the surprise. She had already gotten the Joe Perry thing, so I didn't realize she went and did that instead. She was going to do both.
Whoa.
But I had an idea, and then I thought, maybe she's just going to do the Vegas thing, and so I kind of scrapped that idea. And then when she opened it, she took a picture of me, and it wasn't a true reaction. I was actually talking, but it looked like I was really surprised. And then she put it on Facebook, and I begged her to take it down because
too late. I saw it
because I don't get surprised, and I don't like. It's because I don't like looking surprised. I want to look normal all the time. I want to look mad, happy. I don't know why. It's a stupid flaw that I have, but I hate coming off as surprised, even though it was a really cool thing she did.
Very cool.
So it's hard to. It's that struggle where I don't want to come off as ungrateful because I'm more than grateful, but I don't want to look surprised and grateful.
It's okay to be excited sometimes, Bob. It's okay.
I know. I need to go to therapy or something. And then, do you want to talk about that or save it? It'll be kind of dated by the time we get to...
No, we got to talk about that.
Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, came out, and it's phenomenal. It's... Everybody in the music industry that I've seen online has loved it. Everybody I know that has seen it, with the exception of one person and a lot of critics, and that one person is also a critic, has loved this movie. I do another podcast called Everyone's a Critic, movie review podcast, and one of my co-hosts is an actual critic, and we actually got in a fight on the show. It was kind of awkward because he got really mad at us because me and the other guy were just almost forgot he was there because we were just talking about how awesome it was, and he starts yelling at us for disagreeing with it. It was really, really awkward. I felt kind of bad. I thought maybe we said something bad, but the movie itself is just, as a movie, it doesn't necessarily need to exist, but if you like Queen or you kind of like Queen, I don't know how you can't enjoy this movie for what it is. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, and so here's my argument for people that say this movie doesn't need to exist. Okay. What is Hollywood supposed to do? Keep on redoing old movies over and over again? You got to do something different. Here's
what I think it means. I don't want, personally, as a big Aerosmith fan as him, I don't want to see an Aerosmith movie because I don't think you can come up with an actor that can be Steven Tyler. I just don't think you can. I don't want to see a Led Zeppelin movie because I don't think you could match those guys. But they did it here. The guy who plays Brian May, at some points it's like, is that Brian May in makeup? Because it's that perfect. I guess that'd be my only argument is I don't need, the mystery we talk about all the time is the mystery makes it a lot cooler, that things you don't know. And in this particular situation, there's a period of time in Freddie Mercury's life where he just kind of goes underground for a little bit and does. They try to say what he did. No one really knows. I mean, so they try to go there, and it's probably fairly accurate because the band was involved and they approved everything that happened. But it's still, it's a dark period, and that, I don't know. The critics that I've read didn't like the fact that Freddie Mercury was miserable for a period of time. Well, everybody's miserable sometimes, and imagine being successful and not being able to.
But isn't that considered content for a movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's another one of those things where it's back to the mystery. You have your rock gods. You don't want to see them not being rock gods, and I disagree with that philosophy. But the people that don't like it, I think that's what it comes down to. Not to mention the fact that there's some cheesy silliness in it. Mike Myers is in it. He's fine. I enjoyed the fact that, I mean, he kind of helped relaunch Queen after he passed when Wayne's World came out.
Right.
So it was cute and funny. They literally redo the Live Aid performance, like the whole 20 minutes.
Cool.
Well, you could have just put it up and let you watch the Live Aid performance. But they show, I don't know, it was like, it's not like one of the best movies of the year. It's not going to win any awards, but it is a lot of fun. And if you're into rock music and Queen and any of that, it's.
Can I just ask a quick question here? Is, obviously they took their time making the movie.
Oh yeah.
Everybody that was involved. Okay, if they could make a solid Aerosmith movie, if they could make a solid Led Zeppelin movie, and wouldn't you be in favor of that? For, if they could do it in a quality way, where it's not over the top one way or another.
I wouldn't be able to give you an honest answer until I saw it, because I would not look forward to it until, I'd go see it for sure, but I would not believe they could make a quality movie until it is. It's one of those I'll believe it when I see it kind of things. So if you could nail Steven Tyler, which I don't know how you could, but again, who knows? They nailed Freddie Mercury. They really did. Then after watching it, I'd be like, that was phenomenal. And maybe that having that attitude is what would make it better, because I'd have such a low bar, not expecting it to be good. But
obviously it was done well.
Oh yeah.
There's been people that have tried to, or movie companies have tried to make, made for TV movies about the Beatles that were just horrendous.
Right.
Nobody's done it right yet. But, if they can take that the template of what they did with Bohemian Rhapsody, do you think they could apply that to other bands, iconic bands?
I don't want to see an Aerosmith movie in the Bohemian Rhapsody template, because really what it is like Rocky IV, where he's working out to Survivor songs, only they're Queen songs, and they're performing them and writing them. It's montages, a lot of it. But it's awesome. They're Queen songs, so it's a lot of fun that way. But it does delve into that dark part. Something like Ray or Straight Outta Compton or Walk the Line. I guess those movies do it okay, better than this. But this is still, they did it in such a. But they did it in like a Rocky IV way. A really, you ask 100 people, what's the best Rocky movie? Half are going to say Rocky IV and half are going to say Rocky. You have the quality movie and the fun movie. Bohemian Rhapsody's fun. It is a ton of fun. Even that dark part of it, you need it, but it's just, the whole thing is just, I don't know. I can't recommend it enough, especially for like our audience. If you're into music, period, you've probably already seen it or you're going to see it. So I definitely recommend going to watch it. And, I think it captures the essence of the music industry in a fun way, but in a realistic way at the same time, without being too artsy. And maybe that's what the critics don't like about it. I don't know.
Well, I'm excited to see it. Like I said, I have, obviously time is of the essence, and we all have families, and it's just you're running here and there. And my goal is to not maybe this weekend see it, but
it's going to be out there for a while.
Yeah, so that's my goal. So. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, now that we've wasted your time and made you wait for Myles Kennedy, here he comes from Alter Bridge, Slash, and Myles Kennedy. He's got the new album, The Year of the Tiger. It's been out. Actually, he's got 2 new albums, The Year of the Tiger, and then what the hell's the name of the Slash album? Living the Dream or something like that. I think
so, yeah.
Both phenomenal. Guy has yet to do a bad song, so enjoy the interview with Myles Kennedy.
Good night.
It's nice to know that people enjoy what you do, and so I guess the word that comes to mind is you just feel grateful. You know, you're grateful that 3 years of hard work and time put into doing something that hopefully it's resonating with other humans, and the most important thing for me is that it's hopefully making other people happy. You know, I think that when I go out on stage every night, I always think, you know, maybe there's somebody in the audience who's bumming, who's had something bad happen, and maybe this is a means of escape for them. Maybe there's just a need for music to heal that night, and I'm kind of the conduit for that. So I try to look at it as you're serving a purpose in the world, in your community, whatever, and you know, and push the ego side out, because I think there's the tendency to be satiated by positive words of affirmation, be it, you know, you're talented at what you do or whatever it is, and then that can go to your head, and that, I feel like that will detract from the whole thing. That would create a monster. So I feel very, I feel it's important to do it for the right reasons.
You've got a new video out for The Great Beyond, a new album out with Slash, and now you're hitting the road with, you know, your solo headlining tour this fall. I mean, you really are the busiest guy in rock and roll, but at this point in your career, are you one of those guys that just can't sit still, or has it been nonstop just trying to strike while the iron's hot?
Well, it's a little bit of both. You know, I guess I'm always, because of the nature of this business and because I had enough ups and downs early on to where I don't take any of this for granted, and things have been going really well for the last few years. And so you're always kind of afraid that it's going to end tomorrow. And so you just work as hard as you can while you can. But with that said, you know, it's getting to the point where I'm gone so much, and you know, what's most important to me in my life is my marriage. You know, I love my wife, and I love what we've established over the last, you know, 15, 16 years. And so I want to make sure that is, you know, I don't take away from that with the amount that I'm gone. So it's, you know, it's really just trying to find that balance. And she's incredibly supportive. Asked for a better partner through this whole experience, especially considering how much I'm on the road. But you know, we'll see how it plays out in the next few years. But I will say that there's still that drive, that need to play music, and I think that's a big part of it.
In this era of the music industry, how important is it for young artists to get involved in as many projects as possible, whether it be bands or producing or writing, et cetera? It seems like the really successful artists out there right now really have a lot going on, more than just one band.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's something I've noticed in the last decade. There seems to be a lot more of that, and I don't know if it's just the way the industry is now. I don't know if I can put my finger on that. I can just speak for myself that I've always been kind of hungry to express myself in different ways, and that started a long time ago. I remember back when I'd just been playing a few years, and I started going to school. I went to this music school at a community college here in Spokane, where I live, and I remember I was the guy who was in like 5 different groups at a time. You know, I was playing in a few rock bands, and I was playing in a country band, and I was playing in a top 40 band, and playing in a jazz combo. So I just had this need to do as much as I could, and I think it's always just been in my DNA, and it's carried over into my, you know, later years in my career.
You know, now that you've had some success, have you ever felt pressured to sound like, I mean, I know early on in Alter Bridge they wanted you guys to sound like Creed, but have you ever, other than that, have you felt pressure to sound like something else, or have you been able to kind of pave your own path, once you started having success?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're trying to find out who you are as an artist, especially as a singer, because it's such an important part of the equation is how you use your voice and the inflections and the timbre of it. And my voice is an interesting entity in that it's pretty elastic, and so to the point where it can almost be a problem if you're trying to establish who you are in the musical landscape. And so there were periods in my career where I was listening to specific artists a lot, and vocally they would start to kind of mimic that, and I'd catch myself and be like, "Oh, you gotta pull the reins in here. This isn't what you're trying to do. What you want to do is find your voice, find out who you are, establish your identity, because that's all you can do to kind of leave something behind, And so it took me a really long time to get that figured out, and it was just through trial and error, essentially, just experimenting.
A lot of singers have a hard time, when they do that side project or they do that solo album, that they still sound like, the original band. Steve Perry, when he did his thing outside of Journey, sounded like Journey. But you've been able to do it 3 different times, or many times, but 3, times that I'm aware of, where it's completely different. Is that just really the guitar playing style that's so different between the 3 projects that you have going on right now, or what would you attribute that to?
I think that's some of it. I think that because I play in bands with guitar players who are very different, and my playing style is also very different from theirs. So when I stepped out to do my solo record, that I had that as well, to help kind of differentiate the sounds. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, but also, I've looked at somebody that I really admired and always respected the way he approached his career. His kind of chameleon approach was David Bowie, and he had this ability to kind of transform himself and be appropriate in whatever style he chose to step into. And that was something that was important to me if I was going to try this. It was to experiment with my inflections and experiment with the range that I would use in a given project, and kind of have its sonic characteristics so that it's, it was varied enough. But going back to your question earlier, at the same time, retaining the sonic hallmarks of my voice to where it wasn't like, oh, who's that? I wanted it to be like, well, that's Myles, but he's doing something a little different here.
Yeah, that's very cool. Your tour kicks off in Chicago on November 13th. You have the full band with you on this tour, is that correct?
I do, yeah. I have my rhythm section who played on the record with me.
That's awesome. Are you bringing the banjo and the mandolin and all that as well?
No, I think those instruments will stay at home, and what I'm going to do is this is just too much gear to take out. And I think to have a kind of a utility player like that, we'd have a 4th guy. We opted not to do that. And we talked about it for a while, but we just couldn't find the right individual. So to kind of fill up the sonic real estate, we take the arrangements and rock them out a little bit more. So there's a little more of a rock approach in this context compared to the record. But it's still Year of the Tiger. It's not like it's not going to turn into a metal band or something.
That's funny. I'm hoping to make it out to the Milwaukee show. I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. I'm 3 hours away from everything, but Milwaukee's the closest and it works the best for me. And I'm really hoping to check that out. I love that album. When you were making it, and that concept that you had for the idea behind the lyrics and stuff, did you have that going in, or did that kind of happen organically while you were putting the songs together?
Yeah, it happened as the songs were being written. And what's interesting is I had a lot of the music written. I wasn't sure lyrically what it was going to be about, but I had this hook that had been sitting around for a while, probably since 2009, which was the Year of the Tiger. And I had the fair amount of those lyrics kind of, at least the main lyric, kind of swirling around in my head, but I didn't understand what that meant. It happened one day I was working in my yard and it kind of came to me, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I recorded it and forgot about it. And so when I was working on this record, I thought, well, that idea would work in this context, but what is the Year of the Tiger? And when I checked, looked up the Chinese zodiac and realized, that was actually the year that my father passed away. I thought, well, this is kind of the universe telling me that it's time to touch on this subject. Even though I attempted it in the past and it just couldn't quite follow through with it for a number of reasons, this was the time to deal with it. So here we are.
When I listen to it, obviously it depends on the mood I'm in when I'm listening to stuff. But there's times where you're kind of, I'm gritting my teeth, trying not to tear up or whatever, because some of the songs they're really deep and they're really heartfelt. Is it ever hard to perform that live?
It can be, yeah. I think that one of the things I've learned to do in a live context is not go so deep to where it affects the performance, because that can happen where you get so emotionally wrapped up in the lyric or whatever that it can kind of throw you off keel. So yeah, it's kind of a delicate dance. I try a lot of times. I'm so focused on the technique of it and making sure that I'm singing appropriately and playing the right guitar part that sometimes that'll kind of keep my brain off the fact that the subject matter is as heavy as it is.
This is something I asked Mark way back when, because he has such a crazy right hand. Is there ever a point where you're writing a song and then you realize you got to sing this too while you're playing it? Is that ever something you're thinking about when you're writing?
Sure. Yeah, you want to be aware of that. And generally, speaking for myself, a lot of what I write is I have a guitar and I'm singing as I'm coming up with the initial concept. And so that kind of makes it so that you don't work yourself into a corner, paint yourself into a corner, because it's just a lot of times it'll just kind of happen naturally. Whereas if you were to write something musically first and it was really difficult, and then try to come up with the melody after the fact, then you'd be like, oh, that's really hard to sing and play at the same time. Occasionally that happens, but for the most part, especially with this record, most all of it was just written just sitting with an acoustic guitar. So it worked out well.
Stylistically, did you have an idea what you wanted to do going into this album, or did you just kind of just start writing and this is what it sounded like?
Stylistically, I definitely wanted to take this approach. I knew what I didn't want to do stylistically was make another hard rock record, because I already have the luxury of playing in these two bands that have established a legacy and have put out multiple records. So to put out another album that just sounded the same, to me, I wasn't taking advantage of the opportunity of actually making a solo record in that case. Just kind of watering. And I felt like it would dilute what I'm doing with the other projects. So this was a really great opportunity for me to do something different, challenge myself, and make music that, hopefully would really just kind of push me.
So were you writing to the project, or do you just kind of write all the time, and then if it worked for this, you moved it there, and if it worked for Alter Bridge, you moved it there, and whatever? Or did you write specifically?
Yeah, sometimes I try to. If I'm in kind of an Alter Bridge writing mode right now, so try to stay pretty focused there. Occasionally you'll come up with an idea as you're kind of noodling around and go, oh, well, that would work in the solo realm, and you record it and kind of set it aside and mark it appropriately so that when you go back and revisit all your ideas, you go, oh yeah, I had that idea there. It's kind of like with Year of the Tiger. It's the same sort of thing. That song was, at least the genesis of it, I set aside a long time ago. But yeah, I try to stay focused on whatever project's coming up to the best of my ability.
It seems like a lot of other, I shouldn't say a lot, but some bands, that they kind of tour to the point where they water themselves down, or if you don't catch them this time, you'll catch them in 3 or 4 months when they come back. You've had the ability to do it in now 3 different bands, so you can't really water it down. But now you've mentioned maybe slowing down a little bit. How important is it to not, overdo it or water yourself down? Is that...
Yeah.
How do you, aside from being in 3 different bands, what do you do to kind of prevent that?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. It's a great point. And it's something that I think about frequently lately I've been thinking about it because, I don't think I had no idea how all this was going to work out years ago. And the fact that I play in these bands that have a certain following and have a certain trajectory that seems to be going in the desired direction. And touring as much as we do, it has crossed my mind that, am I oversaturating the market, for lack of a better word? And do I kind of pull the reins back in a little bit just not to overdo it, and I think that's something I'm really going to have to give some thought to in the future because, I'll never forget I was in South America. This was, I don't know, 8 years ago, and a friend was with a friend of his, and they were talking about a specific artist. I don't remember who it was. Somebody who toured there a lot, apparently came down to Argentina a lot. And my friend was like, "Oh, are you going to go to this band's show?" And his friend said, "Oh, I could see so-and-so anytime. They come here all the time." And I remember that really struck me. I was like, that's something to think about, because if you're constantly coming back around, it's no longer special. So I have to really give that some thought.
No, that's all the time I have allotted. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope to see you in Milwaukee. And like I said, I'm a big fan of you, and I love Year of the Tiger, and love the new Slash album too. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. See you later.
Have a great weekend. See ya.
You too. Bye.
I'll be kicking around my weight in steel. I'll be broadcasting the underdeal. When the black is rough and the sky is choppy, no power in the verse can stop me. Now when you can't win for trying, man, I'll be holding your odds, I'll be holding your hand. I'll be mooning the blue sun and earth and I'm good. I'll be saving the day like you knew I would. When the black is rough and the sky is choppy, no power in the verse can stop me. I'll be swinging the gun round and causing you pain. I'll be leaving you standing there in the rain. I'll be putting my boat in the unfriendly sky. I'll be doing the same till the day I die. When the black is rough and the sky